Yeah. Hello, everyone. Is my voice audible, guys? Yeah, guys. Done this GitHub part, everyone. Done with this part. Yesterday we have developed this part, right? Let me just. So we have home, profile, details, search. So this is our search component. If you remember here in the search component, we have this part. The search part we have. So here I can search any username, for example, Microsoft, and click on this search button. The moment I click on the search button, we are sending a request. Okay, whenever we click on this get user, this function is called. In that we are calling get user details. It returns promise that data we are displaying in the console. Let's see whether we are getting that data in the console or not. If I go back to the inspect, here we are getting that data. Okay, so what we did, we created one service, right? So inside this GitHub folder only there is a service.js file. In this we have written this logic, Axios logic. So we are getting the data here. Once we got that data, that data we are sending back to our search component. And here we are handling the promise. So right now we have done something like this. We have search component. We have created one service and we have one GitHub server. Okay. Now GitHub people are maintaining their GitHub server. So right now what we are doing is, so we have GitHub server. This is maintained by GitHub people. We have created service. This is maintained by us. We have created React component. And we are using one library called Axios here. We are using a library called Axios. So now in our component, we have that button. We have here search button. So whenever user clicks on this search button after entering some username, we are calling this service. We are calling this service. We are calling this service, and to this service, we are passing that username. And from service, we are using Axios, and with the help of Axios, we are sending the request to GitHub server. And whatever username user is entering in that search box, that data we are sending through this request. So here we are sending the request. With request, we are sending that username. We are sending the username. Now this GitHub server will receive our request. It will process our request, and based on that result, it will send the response. It will send the response. These are three things which is done by your GitHub server. And GitHub server or backend application of GitHub is created by GitHub people. Now they are doing all these three, and they are sending the response back to us. They are sending the response back to us. Now that response is coming to Axios. Now what Axios is doing, it is creating one promise object. Axios is creating one promise object. One promise object. And whatever response you got, that response, it is storing inside that promise object. That response, it is storing in that promise object. And then this Axios is returning that promise object to us. Nothing but that promise object coming to service. And from service, we are returning that promise object to component. And in the component, we are consoling it. We are consoling it. We are consoling. If you see here, whenever user clicks on this button, we are calling a function called getUser. So this function is called getUser. Okay, this is the getUser, guys. This function is getUser. Now inside getUser, we are calling another function called getUserDetails. Inside the getUser, we are calling another function called getUserDetails. Now this getUserDetails function we have created in our service. Here we have created. So if you see that function we are importing here from this service. And to this function, we are giving the username. Nothing but from our component, we are calling the service. From our component, we are calling the service. This is the step one. And in the service, what we are doing inside the service, if I just open that, inside the service, this is getUserDetails. Here we are receiving that username. And from our service, we are calling the Axios. And if you see in this URL, we are passing this username. It means from our service, we are calling this Axios. That is step 2. And we are passing the username. From here, we are sending the request. That is step 3. Now, step 4 will be received by, that request will be received by GitHub server. They will process the request and some response will be generated. And they will send that response back as a response. They will send that response back to Axios. That is step 5. Remember, response will come back to Axios. It doesn't come back to our service or component. It comes to Axios. Then Axios creates promise. That is the step 6. Then it adds this response in that promise. That is 7. Then it sends that promise back to service. That is 8. So that promise is coming here. Again, from here, we are returning it. So from service, again, we are returning that promise back to component. That is 9. And then we are printing that promise data. Nothing but we are handling that promise at component level. Remember, at component level. If you see in the component search.js, here I am handling that promise. And this is what we are printing it. Understood, guys, all these steps, everyone? Let me know on the chat. If you understood, just type 1. If you did not understand, type 0. So I just want to know responses, guys, whether you have understood this flow or not. Okay. Now what we want to do is whatever response we got right, that response somehow we have to share with profile and details component. So right now the scenario is we have home component, we have a GitHub home component, and under GitHub home component, we have search component, we have profile component, and we have details component. So what is the relationship between search and profile? Can you guys tell me what is the relationship between search and profile? Nice. It is a yeah, it is a sibling. So right now what we are doing, guys, from search, we are sending a request to a GitHub server. GitHub server is giving that data to search. Okay, at very high level, I can say that from search, we are sending the request to a GitHub server, and GitHub server is sending the response back to search. So directly GitHub server is not sending. For that, we have created this kind of architecture, but very at high level, we can say like that. Now data is with search component, but that data, are we displaying in the search component or we want to display in the profile and details? Whatever data you receive from GitHub server, that you want to display in the search component or you want to display in the profile and details?
Profile and details.
We want to display in the profile and details. It means somehow whatever data we got from server, that we have to share with profile also. Some part of data we have to share with profile. Some part of data we have to share with details. Now the question is how? So whenever we want to share the data from one component to another component, the first step is we have to find the relationship. Because if you find the relationship, then only you will be able to analyze or you will be able to find which is the best way to share the data. Because we have multiple ways, right? We have props, we have context API, we have Redux. So which technique we have to apply to understand that or to find that? First of all, we have to know relationship. Now we came to know that the relationship is a sibling. Now tell me, if it is a sibling relationship, then which is the best way to share the data between the components? If they are in the sibling relationship, what is the best way out of all the ways? If your components are in sibling relationship, then which is the best way to share the data between the components? Yes, the best way is Redux. The best way is Redux. Whether you need to share the data from child to parent or between siblings, the best way is Redux. When we go for props, if you want to share the data from parent to child, and that too in one level or two levels. If they are arranged in the first level only or two levels, then better to go with props. More than two levels, go for context API. But if you want to share the data from child to parent or maybe in between sibling, then always prefer Redux because it is more convenient to do with Redux. Okay. So what I wanted what I want was you practice this example with props also, with context API also, with Redux also, because you guys are at learning level, right? So you have to implement all these three. Now, if you implement all these three, then you will understand exactly what is the problem with props, what is the problem with context API, why Redux is more suggested. Practically, you will come to know. Now, if you just listen my sentences and if you give the answer, then that is not that effective. But if you try and then you give the answer, then you will be able to give the answer in much more better way. So just for practice purpose, try with props also, context API also, Redux also. Apart from Redux, can we just follow some other way, manual way, like using services only? Can we do using services? Services means what we will do means we will create one common service here. We will create one service, nothing but we will create one JavaScript function, or maybe we will create one property. We will maintain that property inside one function, or maybe directly we can maintain inside one file. Now, whatever data we got from server, right? Whatever data we will get from server, that data directly we will add inside this one. We will add that data here. So we are receiving the data here, right? In the search component at this level, we are receiving the data. So from here, what we will do, that data we can add here. The data we can add here. Or else from here only, instead of passing that to back to component, from this service, we can add that data here. We can add that data here. So what I will do here, just I will create one more. I will say like here, data service .js file. Inside this data service.js file, right now I will just go with one property where I will say user details. And initially I will store empty object. Empty object. Or we can store empty array. Instead of object, if you want, you can store empty array. But exactly how we are receiving the data, let me just check first of all. Here, if I just keep it as a response, based on that data, we can decide. If I just search for Apple, here we are receiving object only. So let's keep directly object as a default data. Or you can keep null as well. Whatever you want, you can keep. Null means nothing. And we can export this variable from here. Export this variable from here. Now we have this service.js where we are doing Axios. Okay, first let's see from component level only. So here we are handling this data, handle promise at component level. Here we will import that data service, or what is the variable name we have given, user details. Let me get that user details. Now what we will do, whatever data we got from server, right? Whatever data we are getting from server, that data we will add here. So what we will do, simply we will assign user details equals to user data. Okay. Now that data got updated here. Now this user details, again, we will try to import in the profile. Import user details. Now in this user details, we have the data. So that data can we display here? Here, instead of hard coding this URL, can I display that data here? Now here, I will write one condition. If user details is not equals to null, if it is not equals to null, then you have to do something. Else, you have to show here empty URL, empty string. If it is equals, if it is not equals to null, then user details dot. I think here we have to find what is that URL key name. It's avatar URL. So let me just copy this and let me paste here. So basically we are saying that if this user details is not equals to null, it means in this user details, if there is a data, then just get that image URL from this property. If it is equals to null, just show empty string here. Same with name also. Now here I can write the condition again. If user details is not equals to null, then show something or else show no data. Here user details dot name. In the same way here also. If user details is not equals to null, then show bio or else show this content. User details dot bio. So first, let's see whether we are able to display the data in our profile component or not. But here you will find some issues. So let me clear this part. Now see, right now here we don't have any data, no image. Here we got no data, and by default here we got lorem. Because user details right now it is a null. Now here I will search for Apple and I will click on search. Still, now tell me if I click on search, data will be updated here or not? Data will be updated in your UI or not? Anybody can guess. Now, whenever we send the request to a server, this user details will have the data. So tell me whether this data will get updated or not. Just think and let me know. You have 2 minutes of time. Just think whether the data will get updated or not if I click on search. So what I did, whenever I click on search, we are calling get user details. Internally get user details will call service. Service will call Axios. Axios will send the request. Response will come back to Axios. From Axios, response will come back to service. From service, response will come back to search component. And here we are handling that promise. Whatever response we got from servers, that we are assigning to user details. And this user details we are importing from data service. Now this user details I am importing in my profile. And in user details, now I have an object, right? From that object, I am trying to access my data. But before that, I am checking the condition. It should be null, or if it is null, then display empty. If it is not null, then display the image which is coming from GitHub server. Same for this H3 also, and for this paragraph also. So it will display the data or not. If yes, then tell me how. If no, then tell me why. Which user data is already we have the data, right? We are getting the data. User data is empty. What do you mean by user data is empty? Which user data is empty? If I click on search, I'm saying after clicking on search, will that data display here or not?
I think no, sir, because we implemented logic so far only null condition.
No, here we have done right. We're saying that user data is not equals to null.
Null.
It means in this user data, if you have data, then display this image. If it is a null, then just display empty string. So right now, whenever my application starts, at that time, user details is a null. That is the reason here nothing is displayed. But now, if I just do some search, if I do search, then from my server, data will come and that data we are updating in the user details. Here, see, we are updating it.
User details result data. In the where in the logic
Can you show the console?
only null.
Can you show the
rates.
console again?
Huh? Which one?
In the sets.jsx, we have given to the console. So in the console, we will get the data or not. We will check it.
We'll get the
The
data.
browser console.
Let's check it. Okay. So let me go back here. Let me clear this. Got the data.
Yes.
Now what is it is saying that assignment
50.
to constant variable. So have we taken constant here? No. Go
Yeah,
back.
where?
What is the issue here? Search.jsx line number 15. Assignment to const variable.
Get use.
So right now it is giving the issue at which line? Line number 15. We don't have any.
15.
Let me save all. Save. You don't have any const variable, right?
Yes.
Let me just
Function
comment
name.
that and just check again. Refresh. Let me clear this. Microsoft. Click on search. Now we don't have issue. Now here I am trying. Now Apple. Now see here we are getting on 12.9. Means this line is giving the issue. Now, can you guys guess why it is giving issue here now?
What else is there? We have in response. Can we in response other than data? Do we have anything else, or can we assign response to user details?
Yes, we can assign it. Directly you can assign.
Can we expand MTQ1?
I didn't get.
Can we expand?
Can you do in I think data service instead of where constant? Can you add it?
Const you cannot assign, right? Const variables you cannot assign. Okay. So if I add here const.
No, we cannot have const.
If I
Const
go
we
back here. Let me clear all this. So let's do one thing. Here let's skip var, and here if I just do object, refresh. Search. We are getting same issue. Okay, this not be the problem. Here it should be null only. Here is the problem. How to overcome this problem? Somehow I want to add the data inside my property, this property. I want to update here. Can we try with function? Function add data. For data. Now there is no issue. Now let's come back here. Now let me import here user details also, and let me just check. If I do console.log of user details, what it will print. Go back, refresh, clear this part, search for Apple. Now here we are printing. So both consoles are printing. So successfully we are able to add that data here. Directly we are not able to assign, but we are able to assign using this function here. But if I'm trying to assign directly here, say user details equals to response.data, it is not allowing. Receiving the issue here. Comment it. Again, try here, Apple. Clear. It won't give any issue now. Now it's not issue. Now we are able to display the data. Now the data is getting updated on our screen or not? We are getting the data, we are adding that data in user details, but that data is not getting updated here. Now can you guys tell me why? Why it is not updating here? Already we have discussed this part while understanding the state concept. We got the data. The data we are updating in user details also. And that user details we are accessing in our profile component also. And from here, we have written the condition, but still that data is not displaying here.
We need to use the state and set data, set state.
Where we have to use state.
In maybe profile, once we get user details, we need to have a, in this profile.jsx files, we need to have a state and then set state of user details.
Where you want state you should have state.
Yeah,
In which
here,
component you want? Here?
profile, yeah.
No?
Yeah, here, yeah, we can take one state.
Now what I have to do?
And maybe use effect, we can set state.
Which state you want?
We need to call set state and assign that to user details.
But when your component is not getting updated, no, what I have to set here?
User details.
If I set here, then I have to get the data here using
Yeah.
user details. So let me
Yeah.
just work
State.
with this with. And let me add here by default null. Now will it works? Microsoft. I'm clicking on search. No. Let me try something else. Apple. No. Why? If I go to product, if I come back here, I have. Okay, now check the issue. Now I don't have any data. I am searching for Microsoft here. Clicking on search. Data is not updated here. Okay. Now I will visit any other link. Again, I will come back to GitHub. I have Microsoft. Suppose if I don't write this code only. And if you see, the data is not getting updated here. This H3 is getting updated. But without using this state also, things are working. So let me remove this. Okay. Let me replace this with user details only. And here also user details only. No need of having state right now. Because even if you add state, things are not working. If I come back here, refresh. If I search here, Apple, click on search. See, after clicking on button, the data is not updating here. But if I visit any other component here, for example, I'm visiting products. Then I'm visiting GitHub. Now I have that data, which I got from server. So my question is, why data is not updated here? why data is not updating the moment I click on search button, but it is getting updated on the screen moment I visit some other component and come back to that component. Now here, if I search, my data is not updating, but if I go back to categories, come back to GitHub, you will see why details it.
In the search component, do you want to import or anything, so?
Nothing.
Are we missing to import?
Now see here, I got Sneha details.
So is it like update phase not working and mount phase it is working? Is it?
No. Now, if you understood state concept very well, then you should be able to answer it. Just think the flow once. If you think the flow, then you will understand. So this is your component. You have here two services. You have your Axios. You have here backend. You are sending the data from component to service, from service to Axios, from Axios to GitHub server. Data is coming from first to the Axios, from Axios service, from service component, from component you are storing the data in this service. And from this service, you are accessing the data in another component, that is profile component. Here you are accessing. But data is not getting updated here. This component is not getting updated actually, profile component. You are receiving the data, but this data component is not getting updated. Now the question is why it is not getting updated here.
We missed the promise related.
We done everything. We have handled promise, right? Already we have handled it.
We need to re-render the component.
That is the part which is missing. So basically, your data is coming to profile component, but this component is not getting updated. This component UI is not getting updated. So here, data is coming to this component. The moment I search for Apple and click on search, data is there with this component now. But this UI is not getting updated. Why it is not getting updated? Because we did not tell to the React that you have to update UI also. So React doesn't get, like React is not getting any information to get to update this UI. Now the moment I visit another component like categories, now that GitHub home component got removed, it means internally search also removed, profile also removed, details also removed. And here we are displaying this category component. Now again, if I click on the GitHub, now all the components will re-render. Nothing but all the components will mount now. The moment all the component mounts, at that time, whatever data you will have in that component, that data will display. So already data is present in the profile component. That is the reason you will see that data in the profile component. So the point, what is the missing means, the moment the data, after clicking on search, the moment the data reaches to the profile, this profile component is not getting updated. Now, as a developer, you don't have any control to update this component. Somehow you have to tell to the React that once I get the data to my profile component, my data should get updated on the UI. So till now, how we used to tell to React? Using state concept, using set state. So whenever we call set state does two things. First, it will update your state, and then it will update UI also. Right now, we are updating our variable, that is user details, but we are not updating UI. Because updating UI part will be done by React. And how React will update UI? Only if state gets updated. So this is one way. Another way was using dispatch. Whenever you call dispatch, your data will get updated in Redux. Again, your UI will also get updated. Now, in current situation, we are able to update our variable. In our case, variable is not a state. In our case, right now, variable is this but normal user details. We are able to update the data here. How we are able to update? Using this add data function. But whatever data you have in that user details, it is not getting updated in the UI because we are not able to update the UI. So the problem is data is updating in variable, but that UI is not getting updated. If UI is not getting updated, then user cannot see that data here. User cannot see that data here. So the problem with this manual write services is like this. If you go with manual approach by creating one variable, maintaining one function, the problem is you will not be able to update your UI. This is the reason whenever we want to share the data between the components, always we prefer these three techniques. Which techniques? You can go either with props or context API or Redux. So manually, don't try to write the code to manage the data across your components using these services concepts, or else manually you have to write a lot of things now. Now somehow you have to make your profile component update. So once you receive the data here, you can make your profile component. You have to update your profile component. Now, how you can update your profile component? You have just two ways, that is by calling dispatch or by calling set state. By calling set state. Because data is receiving to the search component. Now, once data receives to the search component, we have to update. We have to update profile component. Now, search and profile are in sibling relationship. So directly we cannot update profile component once the data reaches to the search component. So here services concepts will not work. Or else manually you have to write the code. What you have to do? In profile component, you have to create one state. That set state you have to give to the search component. And then in search component, after calling this add data, you have to call that set state here. You have to call here set state of profile component. So there are two problems. First problem is unnecessarily we are creating this state. And one more problem is unnecessarily you have to pass the set state to this search component. So that is the problem. So like this, you have to write a lot of manual code if you don't go for Redux or any technique provided by React. You can resolve it without Redux also. One more way is again using that set state only. So in profile component, you have to create set state now. Let state comma set state equals to use state. Okay, let's assume that null. Now this set state you have to give to the search component. Now the question is how you will give. How you will give? So one way is what we can do is we can just comment this part. Comment this part. Here I can call this new. I can just say here profile set. Now here I can call this profile set. Or here we can call like this. We can take set state only here. And here we can take a variable export. Like this manually, how much code I have to write now? See here, profile set. Then here this to this profile set, I have to assign this set state. Now this function we have to import in profile component. Here. And one more, because here we are using this user details also. If I uncomment, I have to do a lot of changes. So I will just take this as well. Here I will say just set profile. And I will create one more function here. Export function, add details. Or else you can skip this part. But again, we have to do changes here. Wherever we have user details, there we have to replace with state. So now in profile, we created one state. Now what we have to do is, here in the data service, we have created set profile. In this set profile, we are passing this set state in the profile set. Now this set profile we have to import here. And here we have to take this use effect now. So whenever our component mounts first time, in that case, what I have to do is, I have to call this set profile. And to this, I have to pass set state. So whenever your profile component mounts first time, what use effect will do? It will call this set profile. And to that set profile, it will pass this set state. Set state will come here, and that set state we are assigning to profile set. Nothing but to this variable. Now in this variable, we are storing a function called set state. Whose set state? Profile set state. Now this variable we have to import here. Profile set we have to import here. After importing that profile set, now this profile set, indirectly it is a set state of your profile. That somehow we have to call here now. Now let me comment this add data also. Here I have to call that profile set. And in that I have to pass a response.data. Now let's try here. Things will work or not. If I say Apple and if I click on search, now see I got Apple now. Now here if I search Sneha, I got. So how much manual work I have to do here? So here we have search component. Here we have profile component. In profile component, we have a state and set state. Okay, let's assume that we have a state and we have one set state. Now, basically in profile component, what we are doing, once the data comes to this state, once the data we are able to store here, then that data we will display in our UI. Now, the question is how to get the data inside this state. Now here we have a GitHub server. So what we are doing from here, we are sending the request by following all those flow, and we are getting the data to the search. Data is here, but that data somehow I have to store in this state. Then only that data will display here. But data is coming to the search. That data we have to display in the state of profile. So for that, what we have to do, this set state, somehow we have to give to the search. We have to give to the search. So once you give this set state to the search, then anyways data is here. That data we can add into this set state, and this set state will add that data in the state. Then that state will add that data in the UI. Now the question is how to pass this set state of profile to the search. That is the problem. So for that, what we did, we created one more service here. So this set state is there, right? This set state we are passing to this service. We are giving to this service. Now this set state is with this service. What this service is doing, it is creating one variable here. In that variable, it is adding this set state. It is adding this set state here. Now this variable we are accessing in this search. Nothing but indirectly we are accessing this set state. And once we got that data we are adding inside this variable. Nothing but we are adding it inside this set state and we are calling it. Now this set state will add that data here, then that data is displayed here. So manually, if you want, we can handle like this. But how much code and how much things we have to write. So this is another way how we can share the data. Suppose if you don't have Redux, if you don't have context API, if you don't have props concept, then this is how we have to do the things. That's why what React did, they came up with some techniques. Internally, they are doing like this only. React people are doing like this only. Okay. So just try this how I have done. Just after going home, just have a look on this, have a try it. At least you will get a knowledge, because these techniques we will never apply in real time because we have a proper technique like Redux and context API and props. So we never go like this manual work, but still just for knowledge purpose, you can work on this manual work. At least you will understand the importance of Redux and context API. Okay, guys, any doubts here? If you have any doubts, let me know. If you don't have any doubts, yeah, you guys can drop. Let's join tomorrow at same time.